What if everything you've ever been told about what it means to be rich is, well, just not the full picture? Today, we're going to tear up the old rulebook and draw a brand new financial map. This isn't about chasing a giant pile of money. It's about finding a path to what really matters, true freedom.
So let's just start with that big question. What does it really mean to be rich? It sounds simple, right? But the answer that pops into most people's heads might actually be holding them back from ever getting there. So yeah, let's really dig into this.
All right, here's our game plan. First, we're going to figure out what wealth even is. Then, I'm going to show you a financial map that explains how literally everyone earns their money. We'll look at the two very different sides of that map, bust a huge myth about job security, and then wrap it all up with a blueprint for building actual freedom.
Okay, let's jump in. Part 1, what is wealth? Before we can even dream of building it, we have to know what we're aiming for, right? And here's the tricky part. It turns out that target is always on the move.
Okay, check this out. This comes from a fascinating 15-year study. Before the big financial crash in 2007, people thought being rich just meant having a huge pile of assets, a lump sum. But look at what happens after the crisis. The whole idea shifts. Suddenly it's about income. And now, that trend is stronger than ever. And maybe the wildest part, that old gap where men and women had totally different ideas of rich, it's completely gone. It just goes to show you, our financial goals are shaped by the world around us.
So if rich is just this fuzzy, moving target, what should we be aiming for instead? Well, author Robert Kiyosaki gives us this brilliant, much more powerful idea, financial freedom. This isn't a number in your bank account, it's a state of being. It's that magic moment when your passive income, that's money you make from assets, not from actively working, is enough to cover all of your living expenses. When you hit that point, going to work becomes a choice, not something you have to do.
So how in the world do we get there? How do we achieve that kind of freedom? Well, this is where our financial map comes into play. And honestly, this is the core of our entire explainer today. It's a super simple but powerful model that shows the only 4 ways anyone can earn money.
This is the Cashflow Quadrant. It basically takes everyone in the world and sorts them into one of 4 categories based on where their paycheck comes from. Just understanding which box you're in right now and which one you want to move to, that's the first huge step. All right, let's walk through this map. Top left, we've got E, for employee. This is the one most of us know. You have a job, you work for someone else's company, and you get paid for your time. Simple. Right below that, you have S for self-employed or specialist. These are your freelancers, your doctors with a private practice, your small shop owners. You're the boss, which is great, but you're still trading your time for money. If you get sick or go on vacation, the money stops. You don't just own a job, you are the job. Okay, now we're going to hop over to the right side of the map. And this is where the entire game changes. B is for business owner. And this is a huge mental shift. A B doesn't own a job, they own a system. A system that makes money, usually with other people working in it. The key difference? The business can run and grow even when they're not there. And finally, we have I for investor. In this quadrant, your time is almost completely disconnected from how much you earn. Here, your money is your hardest working employee. You put it into assets, and those assets go out and make more money for you.
And this brings us to this huge divide right down the middle of the quadrant. There's a fundamental night and day difference between the left side and the right side, and it all boils down to one incredibly powerful concept: leverage.
Think about it this way. If you're on the left side as an employee or self-employed, your income is tied to your own personal time. And we all only have 24 hours in a day, right? It's a finite resource. Your only real strategy is to just work harder. But on the right side, oh, that's a whole different world. Your income is built by leveraging things that are basically unlimited, other people's time and other people's money.
Let's make this crystal clear. Look at the self-employed person. They work for 8 hours, they produce 8 hours worth of value. Makes sense. Now look at the business owner. They're like an orchestra conductor. They create a system that organizes the time of 10 people, producing 10 times the value. The owner gets to capture the value created by the entire system, not just their own 2 hands. That's time leverage.
Financial leverage is the exact same idea, just with money. Imagine you find a great investment. If you only use your own cash, you get a decent return, sure. But folks on the right side of the quadrant learn to use other people's money, like a loan from a bank, to control a much bigger asset. And by doing that, they can absolutely supercharge the return on their own initial cash. It's about making your money work smarter, not just harder.
Now I know what you might be thinking. All this talk of leverage and systems, it sounds risky.
I mean, common sense tells us that a steady job is the safe way to go. But is it really? Let's poke a few holes in that idea and ask who is truly more secure.
So on one side, you've got the case for the employee. You get a guaranteed salary, you've got legal protections. It feels like a safe harbor. But the owner's security comes from a totally different place. It comes from control. They are at the helm of the ship. They decide where the money goes, they can create multiple streams of income, and, crucially, they see all the information first so they can always protect themselves.
Just think about it for a second. When a company runs into trouble, who has the power? The owner sees the bad numbers first. The owner has the authority to make the tough calls to keep the business alive. And what's almost always the biggest expense? The first thing to get cut? The payroll. This gets to the heart of it. True security isn't about getting a paycheck. It's about having control over your own financial destiny. So, if you decide that the path of control and ownership is for you, what does a business that's actually designed for freedom look like? That's our last section, the blueprint for creating a true business asset that serves you, not the other way around.
Here's the ultimate goal, and it might sound crazy. You want to build a business that can eventually fire you. That means it runs on a system, not on your personal irreplaceable talent. It needs to sell something that's repeatable and can be standardized. Even better if the product is multipliable. Think software or a course you create once and sell thousands of times. The model has to be scalable so it can grow easily. And finally, it needs a smart, lean cost structure to keep risk low.
So there you have it. The map is laid out in front of you. On one side, you have the path of the employee, a path that seeks security. On the other, the path of the owner, a path that seeks control. Neither one is right or wrong, but they lead to completely different places. So now that you understand the map, the only real question left is, which path are you going to explore?